I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is part 3 of an enlightening series with Nimisha from Moon Cycle Nutrition, and covering a wide array of important topics that we want to understand and embrace, if we are on that journey of our own personal health and wellness, as we all should be, because you know what? That's probably the easiest way for us to live the life that we desire when we are healthy. And so, Nimisha, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today.
So, we've already been talking about the microbiome and connection with nature, and I think that's something that a lot of us, totally forget about. Then we've also talked about the innate ability to heal. And so I like how you've structured, this conversation with me, because it's three pillars, the three pillars that we can look at for our own personal success. And I think in any realm, whatever it is that we're doing, we have to look at that trifecta in a sense, three to thrive. And so if it's the nature, and if it's the innate ability in our body, and the one I really like that we're going to talk about right now is community. And as much as we want to be connected with others, it's also sometimes very frightening to be connected with others. As much as technology has advanced and made connections so much easier, it's almost like we've become even more disconnected. And so I'm really excited to hear Nimisha's perspectives on community, how she sees that from her background as a clinical nutritionist, but also a Ayurvedic nutritionist, and someone who studied a favorite topic of mine that I just found out today, and that's psychobiology and neuroscience. Thank you, Nimisha.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell me about community. Um, what is that? How do you see that?
Community, I see it within us and around us. And because I'm such a geek about the gut microbiome, but let's start around us. So, our community, our people, starting with our families, but then our neighbors and our social circles, our friends. They're all really important part of our well-being. And one of the leading epidemics Americans are facing is loneliness now. And, there's showing that loneliness has the effect of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And so it has real physical health impacts. And community is so important and a part of that, right? We have a solid community that is always rooting for us, that is looking out for our well-being, our happiness. um, Much of our health can be attributed to that. And in community, we can grow food, we can have good schooling systems, just all of it. And then that social piece is so important. And then within us, so we have this microbial community within us, and we have about 300 to 500 different species of different microbes, microbiota. And each of those species has a set function. Like one species is responsible for digesting all your vegetables and starches, and then another one is responsible for digesting all of the fats that you consume. And when we are depleted or in dysbiosis, meaning one of those communities is wiped out or in really low numbers, we have difficulties with our health. Like we may no longer be able to digest fats anymore, and that may show up in gallbladder issues or just issues in our skin or elsewhere. And so, having a diverse community all the time with food is really, really important for our health. And that's exactly how I see our communities too. Having a diverse and really rich, abundant community of people around us is really important for our health as well.
So I really enjoy talking to you because I've been writing a whole ton of notes, and I normally don't write so many notes. What comes to mind, and just talk about the microbiome for a second, And I think the parents out there will totally relate to this. So when the first is born, you're feeding the kid, and the food falls on the floor, then you quickly wrap it up and throw it away, right? And then by the time the second kid comes along, then the food falls on the floor, and then you quickly pick it up and you clean it, and you give it to the kid, and the kid eats it. Now by the time the third one shows up, the food falls on the floor, you just pick it up and give it back to the kid. And so it's interesting how we have departed from that relationship with nature and microbiome as part of our community. And who was ever to think that, bugs, bacteria, viruses, parasites, whatever, was part of our health and wellness. And when I first heard that, must have been about 15, 18 years ago, I was just totally blown away. I said, I was actually quite shocked of this, and come to realize, how important that is, and never really stopped to think about the importance of how it actually digests different parts, different foods that we eat. And so, yeah, community is huge. I mean, we're also social beings, and it's impossible for us to thrive if we're on our own. And so, one thing that really hits home for me, hits home to my heart, and I've been very fortunate. I grew up in 5 different countries, and speak 4 languages, and really have met a lot of different people. For me, diversity is my jam. It's the variety, it's the ideas, it's the differences, it's the challenges that makes me such a bigger person. And so I love what you said about, having this diversity in our life is really critical.
Yeah, it's so important. I grew up in a very diverse community as well, and I see how it's playing out in our society today when we are not exposed to different cultures and we aren't exposed to even different foods, how that can affect our entire health, but the construct of our society as well.
So that's where it's important for us to be really open to the fact that other people have just simply polar opposite ideas. And, I remember, way back when I was in my teens, when I already realized that because I'd gone to so many different countries, what was right in one country was completely wrong in another. So who are we to judge anybody else if their behavior is just, awkward or weird to us, when it can just be that opportunity to grow and expand and learn and partner and collaborate with somebody else, potentially helping them and potentially them helping us. So how do you bring community into your practice? Is this something that you're, because I'm not even sure how you would do that.
Um, yeah. So, I'm a nutritionist by label. And then I just try to bring in everything else. I've been doing this work for a long time, and it's nutrition alone is not going to save us. Sleep alone isn't going to save us. Movement, exercise alone isn't going to. We're all pieces of a puzzle, and how big of that puzzle fits into our life is what we have to figure out for ourselves. And so community is a big one. So a lot of times what I see in my practice working in women's health, there are a lot of, reproductive challenges, a lot of issues with their periods, and there's a lot of um, shame around that. And the women, they suffer in silence. They don't talk about their infertility challenges. They don't talk about their painful periods or sexual traumas. And so they're living their lives suffering alone. But when I do group workshops and then I have people raise their hands, like, how many of you are suffering from PMDD? And then, you see all the women raise their hands and there's a collective gasp, like, I had no idea. And then you can see the weight kind of melting off a
Mhm.
little bit because they have found a community that can relate to them, and all their life they had no one else to talk to. So that is where community can really play a big role, right? Even in the postpartum period, America is really unique in that sense that there is no community to step in for postpartum parents. Whereas in a lot of countries, there's there's a whole village out there trying to support you. Even the medical system is supporting you during this really critical first 3 months of postpartum. And so community just plays a big role in your health. And so I really try to cultivate that awareness with my clients. And I'm waiting for the pandemic to be done so we can have in-person workshops again and in-person community healing work.
Yeah, and that's so huge. And because there's this thing called mirror neurons. And what happens is that our neurons get activated as we observe somebody else do something. And it's very much a visual thing. I mean, some of it's auditory too, obviously. But when we observe somebody doing something nice, then we feel good because we got those mirror neurons. And you can't do that so much, if everything's virtual, and if we're not there in person. So I totally agree with you. But aside of that, what I think it must be exciting for you is the ability to develop a wonderful community on Clubhouse where people get to speak. And I think one of the key things that you bring up, which is so essential to our own well-being, is that we can be witnessed. Witness for who we are, witness for our strengths, but also our weaknesses. Witnessed for our achievements and our faults. And so, but when we don't have that, and when we're suffering in silence, and then when we're thinking that we're on our own, I mean, that's just a major burden that really sabotages our life. And as a coach as well, I recently had a client, and I asked them, and I ask this to all my clients, or tell them, right? Do you feel that you're alone with this? And they all say yes. And so, one thing I wanted to share with you, have you heard of Positive Intelligence by Shamin Shirzad? Are you familiar with that? So he does a wonderful thing, and you definitely should check it out, and the audience should check it out as well. Shamin Shirzad, positiveintelligence.com. And he helps people understand two things, your personal awareness, and he has strategies to have developed that, but also what gets in the way, what is he called, the saboteurs. But what I found fascinating, and just adding on to what you were saying earlier, and that is that he would coach, or he would talk in front of 500 CEOs of major Fortune 500 companies, right? And so, in one time, what he did is he would have everybody write on a card anonymously their biggest fear that they didn't want anybody to know about, or their biggest thing that they were fearful that people would find out. And so they collected all these cards, and then he would start reading them off. And just like you said, when people begin to recognize that they're not alone, the weight in that room just completely vanished. And so that's why community is so important. That's why I think Clubhouse is so great, because there is a community and people can hear, right? And it's a lot easier to just speak up by voice only, and people don't see you and you don't see anybody else. So it's a lot easier to kind of show your or share your vulnerabilities. But the power of people that people then get by hearing that other people have the same problems, and that's huge.
Right. And there's healing in that, right? I think a lot of times we just get stuck in the narratives in our head. And then once we state it out loud and have other people witness that, you are able to start on that healing journey, with that weight coming off, but then also finding solutions of what has been bothering you.
Yeah, and that healing, and then growth, and then becoming that best version of yourself, and then living the life that you really want. Besides the fact that you hear a lot of great ideas as well, which I think is brilliant. So I love the fact that you're promoting a community. So anything else you want to add about that? Because I think this is a really revealing topic that people should be more aware of.
Yeah, I think we can only go so far alone. And without community, without us supporting each other, we can really achieve really great things for this world, really fantastic things. And so reaching out, instead of seeing someone as your competition, see them as your ally,
Yeah.
and really work together. You know, I believe there's enough room for everybody. You know, we can create more seats at the table. So really tap into that community aspect, and also go into the world with love. I think that's the other part of community, right? It's love. You don't go into a community with hate. It's love. It's that deep appreciation for another human being. So those are all go hand in hand.
I love what you said, and actually, that's one of my taglines on my platform is tapping into the collective wisdom and create and generate the space, or create the space for generative collaboration. And it's that way, by tapping into that wisdom of all of us, there's genius within all of us. We just collaborate. We don't have to fight each other. We don't have to dispel, all the other personalities that we don't like. Let's find a way of just accepting others for who they are, and maybe we can learn something from that. I love it. Nimisha, thank you so much. This has been really enlightening for me. I've got a lot of new references, and I always talk about, us needing to gain new references so that we can help transform our lives, from regenerative farming to the microbiome, giving up your power, all these things. And this has been a real gem for me. Thank you so much, Nimisha. I'm going to give you the last word for today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been one of the best interviews I've ever done, and really can speak from my heart to you. So you're a really great person to talk with today. And people can find me at mooncyclenutrition.com, or on Instagram at mooncyclenutrition. And on Clubhouse, I am just Nimisha. So really easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nimisha, and I'll be listening to you a lot more. And I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success, tapping into our authentic genius so that we can live the life that we desire. But we need the help from people like guides, like Nimisha. Seek her out, learn from her, change your life, and then share it with others. Thank you, and I'll be back.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.